The U.S. men's national soccer team beat Paraguay in their first game of the Final Cup 4-1, but nobody cares about that because the Knicks, they beat the Spurs in Game 4. Did you see that game? It was unbelievable. We got to talk about it.
Brunson gets it, fires up a three. Shot no good, the chip, it's gone! It's gone! It's gone! With 1.2 remaining, Knicks take the lead! OG Anunoby!
All right, guys, I'm all ready for Game 5. I've got all my Knick gear on. I'm ready to cheer on the team. But before we get into Game 5, let's recap Game 4. What in the world happened there? That was, as you know by now, the craziest game in the history of the NBA Finals. No one has ever come back from that big of a deficit. 29 points down at one point. So many things to talk about. I actually wrote things down. Like when the Spurs losing that game was the first time in this entire playoff run that the youth that everybody's been talking about with the Spurs actually showed up. Their inability to close that game out and to take the foot off the gas pedal and to settle for three-pointers. I don't know. If you've watched any of my previous podcasts on this series, you will know I said if the Spurs continue to take three-pointers and settle for three-pointers, they're going to lose this series to the Knicks. That's exactly what happened. There was one string in the second half where they had 8 straight three-pointers where they missed. That miss combines with the Knicks, effort and keep playing, and the Spurs changed their defensive pattern and took the pressure off of the Knicks that they'd been having in the first 3 games that had worked for them so well. Sorry for shaking the camera there. So many things went wrong. So many things. I mean, a young coach, too. There was no adjustments made. At what point do you, in your huddle, when you call a timeout as the Knicks are making their comeback, do you say, stop taking bleeping three-pointers? Go to the basket. But thankfully, hey, look, keep it up, Spurs. Keep settling for those threes in Game 5. If there's a Game 6 again, just do it because that is totally working. It's totally working for you guys. But anyway, Spurs definitely showed their youth for the first time. As big of a fan of I am as that entire roster. I mean, other than the Knicks, that is the team I most want to watch in the NBA. They're talented from top to bottom. Literally, in the last series, when the Knicks were playing the Cavaliers, their coach Atkinson, said some crazy crap after a game saying that, in analytics, we're actually winning this series. Well, number one, I've said this before, I don't know how he still has his job after that comment. Anyway, but for the first time, I actually understood what he meant because looking at this series with the Spurs and the Knicks, the Spurs, in all intents and purposes, could have already won this series. They'd been a lead in every single one of these games. They've blown leads in 3 of them, and they won the other one. So if the games were 40 minutes long, the Spurs would have swept this series already and it would be over. But they're not, and the Knicks are on the verge of winning their first NBA championship in 53 years. I was a child. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Had no idea about what the Knicks were at that time. I didn't see it, so this is the first time I'm going to experience something like this. I have experienced them losing a couple of finals. The famous one in 94 to the Rockets. That was the famous one where they interrupted the broadcast to show O.J. Simpson slow rolling down the highway being chased by cops. And John Starks and his 2 for 18 in that game. They would have won that series if he would only have passed the ball. I can't keep talking about this. It's so long. Please win Game 5 tonight so I don't have to think about that anymore. Also, in 99, the last time the Knicks were in the finals, they played the Spurs with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. the Spurs got their first NBA championship and started their run being one of the best franchises in the league. And here we are again. So in a way, the Knicks have a chance to get some revenge on that past championship loss. But this is a completely different team. Although all those old Knicks who were in those finals have been in the Garden and even been traveling with them to San Antonio. It'll be interesting to see in Game 5 how the Knicks fans travel. We know the famous rich superstar, movie star people are going to be there and buy their tickets, but what the Knicks had done in their series so far, they've in Atlanta and in Cleveland, they've had so many fans in the arena, it sounded like a Knicks home game. So I'm betting that the arena in San Antonio is going to be kind of split. And there's going to be a lot of New York fans making a lot of noise. But back to Game 4. Whew, what a game. I'm out of breath just talking about it. It's been 2 days. I'm still that excited about it. I rewatched the second half of that game twice since then, just because I want to make sure that they actually won, because it was so unlikely for them to make that comeback. If you look at those percentages, they had like less than 1% chance of winning the game with 10 minutes left in the game. Unbelievable. Unbelievable plays. Again, Spurs keep taking those threes. Stop playing defense. But we'll see. Josh Hart, he got saved from his Charles Smith moment. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the Knicks and Bulls in 1993 were playing in the conference. I forget if it was the championship round of the Eastern Conference. If the Knicks win this game, it goes to a Game 7. Charles Smith has a chance to tip a ball in, or all he had to do was dunk it. He didn't go up strong. He went up weak. He got blocked by several Bulls on multiple attempts, and he lost that game for the Knicks, and he was out of the Knicks uniform soon after that. Josh Hart had that kind of a moment where he had that steal at the end of the game and went to go for a dunk. Maybe he jumped too early, misjudged his jump, and his layup went in and bounced out. And OG Anunoby wound up with that miraculous tap in late soon after that to save Josh Hart from a lifetime of embarrassment, and seeing that being replayed over and over again. They'll still replay it over and over again, but because OG Anunoby tapped in Jalen Brunson's miss, he's going to get off the hook for that. And if they win the championship, no one's going to remember. So we'll see how that happens. But as far as the collapse goes, I can't really think. I was in shock so much after that game. I probably stayed up till like 2 or 3 in the morning watching all of the, Inside the NBA and ESPN, and just watching the replays over and over again, and watching the fans and the Knicks fans not leaving the Garden for like over an hour after the game. And if you see the press conferences with the Spurs head coach, you could hear the fans chanting and stomping and still going crazy well after the game was over. So it was amazing. I mean, the Knicks fans celebrated like they won the championship, but like for sure they haven't won yet. There are still 3 games left. And as unlikely as it is for the Spurs to win 3 in a row, it's not impossible. And really, if you look and break it down, the Spurs have outplayed the Knicks for most of the games, just have not been able to close out fourth quarters. And, that's becoming a Knicks specialty. And, I've mentioned my brother-in-law, George, several times on here. Maybe we'll have him come on after this series, after this next game, and, get his take on it too. But we spoke on the phone the next morning, and it was like he said to me he didn't feel, why don't I feel confident after that win? And I was like, you shouldn't, because if you really look, the Knicks have gotten lucky. They said it themselves. They got lucky. They made their own luck. And the Spurs, again, they're young enough to get over this quicker than an older team who maybe have had more experiences and is lost and gets one of those things like, oh, woe is me, here we go again. They don't have that because this is their first time going through this. So, next season, if they get in a situation in the playoffs, they might, in their minds, come back to these memories of this series against the Knicks. But they don't have that yet. They did come back and beat OKC. They had to win 2 in a row, including one on the road. So it's not impossible. I mean, ask the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox, who came back from 3 down to beat the Yankees and go to the World Series. It's not impossible. Ask the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, who came back from 3-1 down and beat the Warriors to win the only NBA championship in Cleveland. So it's not impossible. And again, the Spurs have played well enough to win and have played well enough they could have won the series by now, if not for the Knicks and their defense and their lack of quit. But I was trying to think of other things that were similar to this kind of a collapse. And, we talk football on here a lot. That's where I started this podcast, mostly talking about NFL football. So the first thing that came to my mind, of course, is, the Atlanta Falcons beating the Patriots 28-3 at halftime and then blowing that game and winding up losing 34-28 in overtime in Super Bowl 51. That's pretty bad. That was pretty bad. I was as doubtful at halftime of that game, the Patriots coming back, as I was of the Knicks coming back in Game 4. 27 down, Karl Anthony Towns on the bench with foul trouble. The refs, again, the Knicks have been playing not only are they playing against the Spurs, they're playing against the refs. The refs have done everything they can to give the Spurs a chance to extend this series. Seriously. They seriously have. I mean, it is what it is. The refs are calling it differently towards the Spurs. I mean, the first 2 plays of the game, Karl Anthony Towns gets fouled and is on the bench with 1 minute and 5 seconds time elapsed in the first quarter. That's insane. That's why there was a 27-point lead at halftime. That is why. Karl Anthony Towns being on the bench, I've said it over and over again, he has to stay out of foul trouble. The refs are clearly calling every time he, touches Wemby, he's getting called a foul. I was also thinking Michael Jordan, there used to be the Michael Jordan rules. So when Michael Jordan had the ball and someone touches him, he'd get a foul called because he's the best player in the league at the time. Wemby is now seemingly in that position because, look, in Game 3, he punched Jalen Brunson in the back of the head and threw him to the ground by the back of his head. That should be a flagrant foul. Every time they show that replay, I don't know how it's not a flagrant foul. They had a chance to watch it afterwards and upgrade that play to a flagrant foul, but they didn't. And then in Game 4, he gets another flagrant foul. Well, guess what? If they would have done the right thing, the NBA officials and the NBA league office, and upgraded Wemby pushing Jalen Brunson to the ground to a flagrant foul, Wemby wouldn't be playing in Game 5. But he's going to be because the NBA has the Wemby rules now. Let's just call it like it is. There are the Wemby rules. Wemby is being protected by the officials. And that's fine. I want to see him on the floor because he's an amazing player. He's a one-of-a-kind player. He's unique. But I also want to see Karl Anthony Towns on the floor. I don't want to see him on the bench because you're protecting Wemby because he's 107 pounds soaking wet. He's a thin, light guy. He's not going to take the beating. But, ask Naz Reid in Minnesota about Wemby's elbow to his neck. That's when he got ejected. Wemby's not a pushover. He's fighting back. He's throwing people around. He's elbowing people. He's talking crap to Mitchell Robinson and then getting elbowed in the face. The refs don't need to protect him. Call it even. I said in the last episode that I thought the refs were going to overcorrect to try to hold down the physical nature of the series. And that's what I think happened in that first minute of the game, and which put the Knicks behind the 8 ball without Karl Anthony Towns, and then to have to overcome that miraculous deficit. It's unbelievable. I still, even days later, can't remember it. All right, so again, Falcons blowing the lead to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That was number one. Go back even further football-wise. The Buffalo Bills beating the Houston Oilers 41-38 in overtime in 1993. Frank Reich, subbing for Jim Kelly, who was injured, led the Bills to a playoff victory over Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers, now the Tennessee Titans. That was an unbelievable comeback. They were getting destroyed, and they came back. So that was close. But again, that was just a playoff game. It wasn't the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl with the Falcons and Patriots, that's a little higher on a scale. Another thing that I was personally in the building for and witnessed, the Mets coming back against the Red Sox in 1986 World Series in Game 6. I was there. I remember them showing on the Jumbotron at Shea Stadium announcing that Dave Henderson of the Red Sox was going to be the MVP. Maybe there was a little of that so that the Mets bench, who's looking right at that Jumbotron, saw it and could get inspired to be like, hey, F that, we're going to keep fighting and coming back. But that whole experience being there, that was so unlikely. And it took so many things and luck and the bad bounce going over Bill Buckner's glove and Mookie Wilson hitting the slowest roller. It somehow gets by Buckner and Ray Knight scores and the Mets win that game. Again, I know I was there. I reacted like they won the World Series, but they still had to come back and win the next game. And really, the emotional letdown of being up for the Red Sox and coming back and having to win Game 7, it didn't happen. And I think the Spurs are in a similar boat. The emotional letdown of what happened to them and what they did to themselves might be the thing. The Knicks tonight can't be in a close game. The Knicks in Game 5 cannot be in a close game. They need to win this game in a way like they beat Cleveland and like they beat Atlanta. They need to win with authority, and it can't be close in the last 2 minutes of this game. They've got to be up by double digits, or this game's going back to New York. But we don't want it to go back to New York. I don't think the Knicks want it to go back to New York. The Knicks fans, the way they behaved, throwing bottles at Wemby, and the Spurs going back to their hotel, they don't need that. And New York fans, come on, we are better than that. That's Philadelphia fans kind of stuff. Philly fans, it's true. That's what you guys do. You threw snowballs at Santa Claus. I mean, come on. It's this not New York stuff. You won. Why are you throwing things at him? I honestly, whoever dumbass threw stuff at Wemby going to the hotel, hope they find him and they arrest that person. But also, that doesn't happen if the refs call that foul in Game 3 against Jalen Brunson. This is Wemby is now the new, Reggie Miller or Tyrese Halliburton or Trae Young. He's the new villain because he hit the captain. He hit the Knicks MVP. He hit the best player, and nothing was done. We're so sick in this country of nothing being done and consequences not being paid to people who commit crimes and commit fouls and something has to be done. If you do something wrong, you got to pay the price. Wemby should have been given a flagrant foul for that thing Game 3. He should be sitting out Game 5. Again, that's not going to happen, so we'll see what's going to happen. Do the Spurs win Game 5? It's quite likely that they do, just because you don't want to lose a championship on your home court. They're going to come out. They're going to play desperate. This is literally their last chance. If they lose this game, it's over. So they've got to come out with everything they've got. The Knicks know that. They've been in this situation before. They've lost series in past seasons to Indiana, the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton. took a series that the Knicks should have won last year. They've hopefully they've learned lessons from that and don't commit the same mistakes in Game 5. But we'll see. I've been saying it's going to go 6 or 7. So that would mean, if I'm right, that would mean the Knicks loses game 5, and comes back to New York. But I don't want that. Nobody wants that. The next time the Spurs should come to New York is next season, in the regular season, whatever game that is on the schedule. But it should not be 2 days from now. The Knicks need to finish this out, and they need to finish it out convincingly. They've got to find some of that that magic they found in Atlanta, where they win by, 40 points, 50 points. They need to find that kind of magic where they put Cleveland in the ground in that last game in the Cleveland series. That's the kind of intensity and magic the Knicks need in this Game 5 in San Antonio, taking place on Saturday. They need to end it. They can't let the Spurs come back to New York. And again, you give the Spurs a glimmer of hope. They're inexperienced enough and emotional enough and talented enough to win. And they beat OKC with a series that was very unlikely for them to win. But if anybody was going to beat OKC, it was going to be San Antonio this year, because San Antonio had their number all season. They figured it out in the playoffs. They shut down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've been controlling Jalen Brunson up until the very end of Game 4. Jalen Brunson was kind of under wraps and looking out of sorts, and the Knicks got off of what got them this far, which was moving the ball, playing fast, everybody getting involved, Karl-Anthony Towns making decisions, and they got back to that during the comeback in the fourth quarter. So hopefully they keep that style of play going. Jalen Brunson and Jose Alvarado being on the court at the same time, letting Alvarado bring the ball up instead of Brunson. Good idea, because Brunson's getting exhausted having to fight 2, 3, 4 guys, and that's what the Spurs want. They want Jalen Brunson to dribble the air out of the ball, and then they have to rush a stupid shot at the end of a shot clock. And Knicks played into that most of Game 4 until the end, when they changed up their style and got back to what had got them to this finals in the first place. So, all these old things of comebacks, that's all over now. Like everybody's saying, the one thing, before I get on to what I was about to say, the one thing I am slightly hopeful about is that the Knicks in their press conferences were not talking like, we got this. They look upset. They look sad, and they look relieved. And really, they should be, because there's nothing to be proud of. That was a win, and that was exciting, but you need to erase that, because you won that game more because the Spurs couldn't execute. The Spurs fell in love with the three-pointer. Please keep shooting those three-pointers. Please. Wemby, that means you. Keep shooting them. Stay outside. Be nowhere near the basket for a rebound. Be nowhere to block out OG Anunoby. Be nowhere in sight so people can come flying in, and Mitch Robinson and Anunoby can tap missed shots in. Just stay outside. Keep that up. That was working. That worked so great in Game 4. Please keep that up in Game 5. It's going to be a tough one. I am excited. I'm hopeful and optimistic that out of the 3 remaining games, the Knicks are going to get one of them. I really, really hope it's tonight. I really, really don't want it to go back to New York. And I really don't want to go back to San Antonio a second time if they lose Game 5 and Game 6, which is possible. So I'm going to keep it light, like I keep telling everybody. I'll believe it after I see them raise the trophy and after I watch the game a second time to make sure what I saw actually happened. Then I'll believe it. But I'm dressed up. I'm got my hat, got my sweatshirt. I got my Bernard King jersey hanging up back there. We are ready to watch this game. We are ready to root on the Knicks. My fingers are crossed. Let's do this, New York. Spurs are really good. Spurs are really good, and they're going to come out fast at the beginning. The Knicks cannot repeat another bad start to a game. They have fallen behind by double digits in every first quarter of the game so far. That cannot happen tonight. So, watch the game. In the first 5 minutes, we will know how this is going to go. Because if the Spurs jump out to a lead again as they have, the Knicks are in trouble to win this particular game. But the Knicks are so confident of coming back from big deficits, it's going to be a game right down to the end. So it has been a very entertaining series. It has been some slightly controversial non-calls, referees being a little loose with the whistle, or the lack of the whistle, I should say. We will see what they do now. Their attempt to roll it back and control the physicality backfired in Game 4. So let's see how the refs handle this. The Knicks got to worry. Don't worry about any of that. Just worry about each other. You know, it might be a little easier because they are away and it's them against the world, so to speak. They don't have all the distractions at home. They're away. They're in hotels. They can focus. They don't have, the everyday lives and comforts of home. So winning on the road for championship teams is, number one, a must. You have to win road games. They've won 2 so far. It's very likely that they're going to get a third. But we shall see. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. If you watched to the end, thank you for doing that. Thank you for hanging with me. Please subscribe, hit the like button, give it a thumbs up, ring the bell so you're notified the next time I post something on Silva Linings Playbook's channel. Thanks for watching. Go Knicks. Let's do this. Finish this out. I'll talk to you guys after Game 5.